during the quarantine talks of the New York Dance and Arts Innovation. I'm Jakub Polaczyk. I'm the vice president of this organization, but also artistic director of the Chopin and Friends Festival. Today, our guest is an incredible pianist, Tony Young, and we have a great, incredible and unforgettable memories last year when Tony was performing to the festival at Carnegie Hall, Chopin's B minor sonata. And he is today with us. He is very young, but so talented pianist, originally from China, but he was raised in Canada. And now he studies also in the States. So just briefly to say that, as you remember, 2015, he was the youngest laureate of the Chopin competition. He got a first prize. He was only 16 years old this time. And as a also Canadian, he go on also many prizes in Canada, but also in the States, including also a competition, very famous competition, also in Salt Lake City. And now he's studying in Boston at the combined program, joint program, New England Conservatory and also the Harvard. So I hope he will tell a little bit about us, about his experiences the last 6 months, about the pandemic, and about his life as a concert pianist. Now he's surprisingly originally in Sweden. So hello, Tony. So nice to see you.
Hello, Jakub. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you. How is the weather today in Sweden?
It's very cold here. It's been it's surprisingly not so much snow, but the temperatures have been pretty cold. And how's it like in New York?
Well, today actually is good, but the last few days it was a little bit raining, you know.
Oh,
Yes, but there's no snow. There's no snow. Some in Pennsylvania there is snow. It was snowing last few days, but it's very good. You know, it's a little windy, but it's a pretty cool weather. Very Tony, nice. Tell us, why are you in Sweden? Maybe first, why are you in Sweden?
So I have school this semester, but since everything is online, you know, I don't have to be in Boston.
Of course.
So here in Sweden, I'm very, very fortunate to be working with a professor here by the name of Julia Mustonen Dahlqvist. And so, just in these few months, taking advantage of, you know, school being online. I've been working with her quite a bit. I also have a few friends, and so we're doing some, you know, like random side projects from time to time just to, you know, learn more about, you know, different things. And I think it's just been a great time. And so I'm very grateful to be here.
Yes, but you know, so do you have lessons, in-person lessons, or when you are in Sweden, or you have like virtual? How does it work?
So in Sweden, they kind of practice herd immunity. And so, there are not many restrictions and everything's happening in person. And so like here, they don't really wear masks. But like the thing is like, it's actually a good thing here because the group is very small and we only see each other. And so as long as like our group is fine, it's all good. So.
Wow. But are you based in Stockholm, or where are you now? Are you in Stockholm?
It's the city's called Arvika. Well, it's not really a city; it's a town, but it has a population of about 15,000. No traffic lights because the town is so small, and also so it's towards the west of Sweden. So it's about 40 minutes from the Norwegian border.
Okay, Norwegian border, yes. Okay, yeah. Not so many people, right?
Density. No, not many people. So
very nice. Very nice to think, to reflect about life. But tell me, Tony, how have you been for the last 6 months, half year? So where have you been? How was your practicing schedule? And tell a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it was definitely very interesting. So I was at school when this whole quarantine thing happened, when the whole crisis broke out in the US. But before that, I was actually traveling quite a bit. I was in where was I? I was in Hong Kong, Singapore, Qatar, Sweden, and Italy. And so actually, it's actually quite funny because my travels were kind of right before the virus.
The virus.
Okay. So the virus broke out in Asia in January, and I was there in January, and the virus broke out in Europe in February, and I was there in February. And then so I came back to school after missing school for quite a while, And then, I was just getting, into the swing of doing classes. And then, the crisis broke out in the US. And so, yeah, it was very sudden. And so, like, I had no plans. And at that point, we were still in school session. So I wasn't thinking of going home. So what happened was I stayed with a friend, a very close friend of mine, in Connecticut for two months, from March to May. And there they had, my friend's place, they had like a really nice piano. And so
the grand piano, right? But
yeah.
where in Connecticut? Where in Connecticut?
In Westport, Connecticut.
Oh, Westport, yes. It's not
Yeah.
so far from New York, not so far.
Yeah, not so far. And so, yeah, so I was doing school from there. And then, I was practicing piano. And, I also had, at that time, I had lessons online. And so, yeah. And then, so after school finished, school ended around May. Two of my friends who were still in Boston, they came up with this wild idea to go to Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yes, because they said like the virus was not so bad in Hawaii and blah, blah, blah. And so right after the exams, we made a very wild decision to go to Hawaii.
Oh, wow. So you did that.
Yeah, so I did that. It's not super well known, but now now I've said it, so it's like But yeah, so it was very interesting. So we just ended up going to Hawaii, and then it was actually quite good. So for me, I think just in general, the pandemic has been a great time to kind of like step back and just to like look at my life and to evaluate everything and to really think like like do the philosopher thinking that usually happens in one's 20s. And so I think this really gave me the chance to just think about my life, think where I want to go next, think what I want to do better and that kind of stuff. And so by going to Hawaii, when I went there, obviously
did you have piano there? Did you have piano there?
Yeah, so the thing is I tried to rent some electric keyboards. But obviously I didn't really practice so much when I was there. And so I think, I kind of took a little bit of a break, and which was actually quite good. And we ended up staying much longer than we had originally planned to. But I think this really gave me a chance to like kind of explore some other things away from piano. But at the same
Did you take scores? Did you take piano scores with you?
I did take piano scores with me. But the thing was like, I think, after I was there, it was also good because I actually felt more motivated to return to the piano and much more inspired to return to the piano after I went to Hawaii. And so I think that you really provided kind of like a well-needed rest and some, thinking time. And so, so that's
Do you like traveling? Do you like traveling?
I do like traveling very much. And I'm very sad that there are still many restrictions in place. I just think traveling is such a great way to like learn and to really get the experience that, of different cultures. And I think that really positively impacts, one's musical interpretation, one's musical performance. And I kind of just very much like the spontaneous kind of life. And so, so after Hawaii, I went back to Boston for a little while.
And then Sweden.
No. And then I went back home to Toronto.
Oh, wow. You went to Canada.
Yes, I did. I had to do a quarantine when I arrived. And so and then I got to, see my
2 weeks or 3 weeks? How many weeks is in Canada? 2 weeks?
The quarantine is 2 weeks. The quarantine is 2 weeks. Okay. I stayed about a month in Canada, and then I got to catch up with my parents, which is very, very, very nice. And but of course, when I first went back, I had to quarantine because just in case anything, I didn't want to infect anyone. So but I ended up being negative, and then I just quarantined. So that was quite fun. And then from then I came here. So I've been in Sweden since the end of September.
September. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild journey. I mean, I think just a lot of thinking, some practice, of course, and learning new repertoire. Trying to learn as much new repertoire now. But I just think in general, the silver lining of this whole crisis is that you just really have time to do stuff that you might normally never have time to do.
Because most of your concerts probably got canceled, right, or postponed. How was it?
Yeah, for sure. So I've had to do a couple of online things.
That is
But
cool.
yeah, most of them, yes, they've been canceled and postponed. And so the next thing that I have is probably in January. It's in Canada, near the Atlantic in the Maritimes. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen, because I think what I'm hearing from that part of the country is that there's apparently like a separate quarantine for the American region of Canada, because they're doing much better than the rest of the country are doing in terms of the virus. But yeah, I think it's just been a very uncertain period, and I think so
I see.
everything's very last minute, I think. So.
But you are Tony. You are originally from Toronto, right? Originally from Toronto.
Yeah. So yeah, I grew up in Toronto. So yeah.
So did you go to Glen Gould School? Do you also what do you think about Glen Gould also? Because when I think about
cool. Yeah, Glen Gould, I definitely think is definitely one of the most iconic pianists ever. And definitely a serious emblem of Canadian culture. Like, I'm very, very much a huge fan of his Goldberg
variations. Number 1 or number 2? Because there are 2. Yes.
I prefer number 2. I think there is it's just a little bit a different side of him, and I very, very much like his insight in the second one. But the first one is also very, very good. Yeah, I just think Glen Gould is really such a fantastic musician, and I take so much inspiration from his art, and also his way of working. Like I remember a couple weeks ago, I was actually I came across this video of him practicing one of the Bach partitas, and that was quite inspiring. So yeah.
But do you have those Goldberg variations in your repertoire? Do you also play this piece?
I made a resolution to try to learn it during quarantine. So far I've only done the aria and the first variation, but I do hope, actually, I'm just waiting for school to finish. So I'm almost done school, but I have 3 essays left, which are very, very boring.
So Tony, tell us, what are you studying? You are studying piano, but not only piano.
Yeah, well, so piano is definitely still my main thing. I just think, like, right now, like, the thing is, like, I just think in life it's just very good to have like your options open, and so I think that's why I'm pursuing this degree that's completely unrelated to piano at Harvard. And so I'm concentrating in economics. So it's a liberal arts. It's a liberal arts education. You get to learn whatever, but of course you have to have your major. So my concentration is economics, and I'm also trying to do the secondary in psychology.
Wow.
Yeah. So so I have 3 papers left, and so I'm waiting to finish those 3 papers, hopefully by next week. And so right after that, I think that it should be definitely like a winter break.
So fingers crossed. Okay, but that's great that you are doing so many things. But are you doing master degree, or what else? Master?
So the program is I'm technically doing a bachelor's at Harvard, but the joint program, as you mentioned, it's technically a bachelor's and a master's, but the master's is NEC, but the bachelor's from Harvard.
Okay, I see. Very interesting program. Very interesting. Yeah. Tony, so also going back now to our memories with the Chopin and Friends Festival last year, when I was able to hear you, I was so impressed when you played this sonata in B minor by Frédéric Chopin. And tell us about your memories performing this piece, and also because during the Chopin competition you performed the P flat minor sonata, right, which was a different, and we were very, it was a magical performance. And tell me also, how did you work on this piece? How do you work on the new repertoire? And tell a little bit about that, okay?
Yeah, so I definitely very much remember that experience with great fondness. And of course, thank you so much for having me, to be a part of it.
Pleasure.
Really, really amazing. And so actually for that particular performance, so that was actually my first time playing in a while. And at the same time, that was also my first time performing the Chopin Sonata in B minor in public in its entirety. And so I think what I remember from it, I remember it being a very fresh and inspirational experience. I think I had like a lot of different ideas, and since, like, given the circumstances, and of course, it's part of Carnegie Hall, and I think it's just it was just such a cool moment just to be able to play. Also just with so many other different musicians as well, you know. And so yeah, in terms of the preparation for the sonata, and just I guess my preparation in general, I think for me, I usually I just try to take it slow, and I try to, when there's not like a deadline, I really try to, you know, just immerse myself in the music and this technique as much as I can first before trying to pull everything together. And so, you know, for me, I try to, you know, definitely look for a lot of patterns throughout the music, try to do a lot of work outside of the piano, you know, just with the floor, and just imagining how I would it would sound in a very ideal world. And I guess also just listening to a lot of different recordings. Also, I guess looking at other art forms that I think could resemble this kind of music, for example, like paintings or movies or videos in general, or just, you know, just the landscape. And that's also another thing that you mentioned, you know, traveling, and I very much enjoy traveling. And so
music is like travel also many times.
I
When a
really
composer
think
composes,
so.
it is like...
It is really, when you go through like different sections of the music, you know, you have different visions in your head, you have different images, different imaginations. And so I think, you know, it all goes hand in hand. And so I really think that I don't know, I don't really have like a particular formula of preparing, you know, like a you know, like a piece, but I think it just comes naturally, and I really just try to immerse myself as much as I can into the music, and also through other art forms that I think could be related to the music that I'm playing. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great. Tony, I have also a personal question regarding also the colors in music, you know. I'm a composer, and it's also very fascinating for the modern composers thinking about the colors. I remember when you played the sonata, it had tons of colors. What do you think about the idea of colors music? Do you think also in the way of changing the colors, or it just comes from your expression? But can you see colors, and what do you think about this generally in music?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I definitely I definitely try to see colors. I always, as I mentioned with the previous question, my previous answer, I always try to relate what I do on the piano to everything else in life. I think, you know, life is so, you know, it's continuous, and I think it's also, many things in life are connected. And so, yes, I try to see different colors, but not even just colors, but I try to like feel, for example, like this part could be maybe something in E minor, could be something that's blue, but it's a very fuzzy blue or something, you know, some texture, some kind of landscape, some kind of just some kind of experience that's very unique to it. And I think, of course, with every experience, you know, with every true meaningful and memorable experience, there's definitely, you know, a lot of colors that come along. And sometimes it doesn't have to be super colorful, but it's just a very, very good complement with each other. I don't know if I'm explaining it well.
That's great. That's great. Yes, actually, it's wonderful what actually you're trying. Very, very, very interesting. It's great. But you know, Chopin also was. So tell us also about the Chopin, because Chopin, as also a Polish composer, he had a lot of emotions and a lot of colors, also very dark colors, and his music is so rich in many things. So what is your approach for Chopin? How important is Chopin? Of course, you won the prize at the Chopin competition, but how is important nowadays Chopin for you? And what can you tell about this music for us briefly?
Well, yeah, so Chopin definitely, I think for any pianist, or just a lot of people in general, I think Chopin is definitely one of the composers, or if not the composer to you know, touch people's hearts in a very, very direct way. You know, the Chopin melodies are very famous throughout, and I think for me, really, you know, Chopin, regardless of you know, what I'm doing in my life, I think he remains a very, very, very dear composer to me. And I think personally, from a foundational and developmental point of view, I think that playing Chopin's music, especially during that period when I was really preparing very much for the Chopin competition, I think that on a developmental front, I really developed a way to kind of sing the melody. There's a lot of, you know, lyricism in Chopin's music, and I think that his music really helped me develop, you know, kind of as much of a singing sound as I could at that time, and it really made me think about you know, the sound quality, the tone, everything. And so I think really playing Chopin's music every time, I think it's kind of very much like a fresh experience. And you know, I think his melodies really, you know, require a lot of, you know, color because it's just so colorful. And yeah, so I definitely think
I
he's
see.
definitely one of the most important.
Yes. But you know what? I also have regarding regarding as a composer, I'm just thinking a way. We have melodies are amazing, so original, but also on the top of that, harmony, also the ornamentation and timing. I think he was very innovative. Do you agree with me that Chopin was somehow experimental composer for his time?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, the works that come into mind, like where he really, I think the one work that comes to mind when he, you know, really went very experimental was the Chopin Polonaise Fantasy.
My favorite.
Actually, definitely. And yeah, just his concept. I mentioned melody, but of course, just his like harmonic, you know, progressions and his sense of timing, and especially
Yes.
the beginning at the very beginning of the Polonaise Fantasy. It's just such a surreal world that he creates with this atmosphere. And the thing about Chopin that I very much appreciate is that all these things with harmony and timing, it never feels like it's too much or it's too little. It's always like
Exactly.
there. And it feels like it's natural, and it feels like it's there because it serves the music. Like he's not trying to push colors out there that, you know, that feel like they're forced, and everything is just
very natural. Yes.
Very, you
and
know,
balance.
it's hard to describe, but yeah, I think it's easier to listen to his music. But
yes,
yeah,
you mentioned this Polonaise fantasy. This amazing work because also of the term I'm thinking. Later in the future, also Lutosławski and many composers got so inspired regarding the form, because form is very different. You have so sections. It's like sometimes in a movie you have for a moment this section, like in the collage. Sometimes it sounds, but it's not. It's amazingly composed, and in terms of the form, it's also very refreshing, experimental for this time.
Yeah,
yes, it is. But also tell us, we are talking about the Chopin, so maybe let's go to the topic about the Poland, because you performed at the Chopin competition. It was your first visit, as you told me. I remember last year when we had discussion after the concert at Carnegie Hall. You mentioned that was the first time visit, right, to Poland during the Chopin competition. But after that, you also came. You had some concerts. So, what are your memories also with Poland, Tony?
Yeah. So so the first time I went was April 2015 for the preliminaries of the competition.
Yes, competition. Yes.
Yeah. So since then, since the Chopin competition, I've been fortunate enough to return several times, and I don't know. I feel like every time I return to Poland, it just feels like home for some reason. It just feels like a home for some reason. I find the people of Poland to be super welcoming, and the hospitality that I've experienced in Poland is really unlike any other. And I think that's very kind of representative of Chopin's music, because Chopin's music is also very warm, and it feels like a lot of times when you're playing his music, it feels like there's some force out there that's hugging you, and it just feels very welcoming. And so yeah, I mean, in terms of food, I very much like Polish food.
Do you like Polish food? What do you like from Polish? Pierogies, dumplings?
Yes, I do. Yes. I know that. I forget what's that street
in Warsaw?
Nowy Świat.
Nowy Świat. Yes, this long straight, right?
Yeah. I have great memories of that, and so yeah, every time I visit Poland, I always try to eat there as much as I can.
Yes.
And yeah, I think in general, and also just the architecture, everything is just nothing's overdone, and it just feels like there's so much culture and so much elegance and so much nobility. And I think that really plays a huge role in also my interpretation of Chopin's music. I try to you know, be inspired by, you know, Poland and
The landscape, you know, but did you have a chance maybe to travel outside of Warsaw, because you mentioned Warsaw, to the different maybe places in Poland?
So I've been to Żelazowa Wola.
All right.
Yes, I've also been to Radom, Kielce, Krakow. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
I definitely want to travel also a bit more through Poland, but yeah, so far those are the places I've been to. But yeah.
You've got to know a bit, right?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Great. You know, I'm thinking now we are talking about also the landscape and about the Poland, you know. I was thinking because I was mentioning that you got so many prizes also before the Chopin competition. The list is really long, but I was thinking you got a prize for the mazurkas in Canada before entering the Chopin competition, and you play also them wonderfully during the Chopin competition, and you played Opus 59 during the competition, right? Those three mazurkas. Tell me, what are the mazurkas for you? How did you prepare for them? And how many mazurkas are you playing currently?
Yeah, so I think the mazurkas are definitely one of is they're a very, very unique form. And Chopin is kind of like the father of all mazurkas, and he's the almighty. And I definitely think every time to play a set of those mazurkas, it's kind of like an experience. And I feel like these are such miniature works, But especially in like Opus 59, within
yeah.
these miniature works, there is like so many changes and so many things going on. For example, even in the, you know, in the first one in A minor, you know, there's this whole entire middle section, and it's just a totally different world. And the way that he is able to use the harmonies to lead towards that middle section, it just, everything just feels like, you know, it's a very continuous thing, but it just feels like the transitions are just kind of one to the other, and they really go hand in hand. And I think in terms of like preparation for these mazurkas, I definitely think, well, for me, I think back then I really had to, you know, kind of read a little bit about these mazurkas, because I think they're a very special dance form. It's not, you know, like the waltzes. They're very, very different, right? And so I think definitely a lot of that was helpful. And of course, you know, playing for, you know, teachers, and also, you know, just trying to listen as much as possible, interpret it with an open mind, and, you know, incorporate your own feelings. At the same time, yeah, I mentioned that the mazurkas are a very, very unique dance form, but at the same time, I also think they're very, very personal work. And so I think that there really needs to be a lot of emotional, or at least psychological or spiritual involvement when interpreting these mazurkas. In terms of the mazurkas that I've played recently, so I did Opus 59. Unfortunately, I haven't done too many mazurkas recently, but earlier during this quarantine, I did do the one in C major, Opus 24, number 2.
24.
So that was very nice. Yeah.
Great. You know, but you know also about the other, how about the other mazurka, about the other composers, you know? I'm just going back to the history of music, like for example, Szymanowski later, you know, the Polish composer Karol Szymanowski, or the Maciejewski. So there is a long tradition later with mazurkas in the Polish culture, you know, and everyone is having a different way of expressing and working on this, going back to Chopin as a grandfather, somehow grandfather of this little form, which is so short but has so much information and so much to do.
So rich, yeah.
And maybe the last thing, so Tony, what are your plans for the next 6 months? Which pieces you would like to study, and what do you think about the next 6 months? Are you going to stay in Sweden? Are you going to come back to Boston? So, and what would you like it to be?
In terms of what I will actually do, I'm absolutely not sure yet. I think because of the nature of, you know, how things have been throughout this pandemic, it's very hard for me to kind of predict what I'll do. I definitely would like to go home to, you know, visit you know, my family for a little bit. But I think at the same time, I think that this is, and here in Sweden is kind of like a very, very ideal working environment. So I would definitely like to, you know, be here as much as I can. Maybe in the middle, travel a little bit somewhere, just to rejuvenate and to feel fresh. You know, I think one thing in music, or just in art in general, or just in life, I think it's very important to try to feel as fresh and as inspired as, you know, as much as possible. And I really think that really increases the productivity, the efficiency, and just the quality of work that one is able to achieve. And so, yeah, definitely I will try to look for ways to, you know, try to, you know, keep that sense of freshness. So
but how many hours do you practice daily?
How many hours do I practice daily? I've been trying to do as much as possible. I think I average around, these days I average around 3 hours per day. But of course, you know, you have the days where you practice much more. And then there's some days, especially with school being online, surprisingly, actually, it's actually been more work, I feel like, since school. Because, you know, a lot of the things that you would normally learn in person, you know, you can try to do as much as that online, but you know, sometimes, you know, it doesn't come through as good. And so I've had to spend a bit more time on school. So sometimes, especially during like finals periods, it's you know, some days I don't go practicing. So I think, yeah, I try to do as much as I can, but I think it really varies depending on the day. Yeah.
Yes, but you know, also I'm thinking, so we wish you a really fresh mind till the end of your career. And also you did a great, it's a winter weather today. in New York, I was thinking maybe we can also play this Etude from Opus 25. It's called so-called the Wind, right? The Winter Wind, and A minor. So we'll also play this piece at the end of the conversation. But thank you, Tony, for everything that you shared with us. It was really a pleasure to hear your thoughts, about your wonderful life. So I wish you also a lot of travels in the future, and all the best for you, for your repertoire, for your piano playing, which is already amazing. And so as playing, it was really very, very fresh. That's what you mentioned during the conversation. So just keep going, and all the best.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, for you too. Thank you.
So thank you, Tony.
Yes.
So bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah.